Welcome to week 5. This is going to be the recap for tomorrow's session, being Monday, the 10th of November. I'm recording this in advance and I'm going to put it up on Moodle for those who are not able to attend the session but want to be able to hear the presentation. So, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the observations. And I want you to thank everybody for signing in and out. Really appreciate it. The nice thing also was just a little recap from last week. Being able to sit and have the one-to-ones with everybody, it was really helpful. It was great to sit and talk to everybody. Great to see your sketchbooks, and I can see how much detail you've put in them. Just remember to add a little bit of information about the process. I know some of you had already started to add that detail, but also uh, the reflection. You know what you've learned. You know, just add some reflection and also add a word bank. So I noticed that not many of you had added a word bank. You know, if you are learning new information such as new seams, please add that as a word bank. The word bank is just a small dictionary. It'll suffice as a little reminder for yourself as you journey along this course. And it also shows the awarding body, you know, that you're learning new information. And like I say, you'll look back at your sketchbook, it'll be something to remember. And you'll be able to think, you know, where's that stitch? How did I make that stitch? And how did I feel about it? Because, like I say, we're going to make a series of samples. Some of these samples will be on different types of fabric. So it's really important to reflect on your experience using all these new products. Remember, your sketchbooks are, you know, they're very personal to you. So each one is going to be different. We're all creative people. We're all inquisitive. I'm inquisitive. Ask questions. I want to find answers. I want to explore new techniques. You know, and I have to write things down because so much is going on in life. Techniques change, fabrics change. You know, and we want to be able to document that. You know, it's really important. So the plan for the session, a little whistle stop tour. I've got a short presentation on utility pockets. Um, also going to continue making pocket samples, and I'm going to continue the one-to-one conversations because, as I've said, they're really important for us to be able to have this conversation. Your opinions are so valuable to me. This is a two-way process and I only want the best for you all. Um, and it's important to know how you're feeling, and also, you know, anything that you want to change that you think, you know, I'm not doing right or I'm not explaining clearly. You know, this is the time for us to go over it when we're sat having this conversation together. So, pockets. Pockets. Pockets have got a massive history, a rich history that dates back centuries. They were functional. To later today, they're also become a statement of fashion. They were even used to hide treasures and contraband. So we think about contraband, especially here in Cornwall. You know, Cornwall's quite well known. Penzance is well known as being one of the first smuggling ports where they had smuggled cigarettes in and other items of contraband. In later times, when the sailors were bringing the contraband in, or the smugglers rather were bringing that contraband in, they would put it in the pockets and they would ship and it would drop down into the boots. And that was one way that they would be able to smuggle those new world products in at that time. The original word pocket comes from the old French word being pocket, and basically that meant a bag or a pouch. So originally, a pocket really wasn't meant to be sewn in clothes. It was actually meant to be a separate bag. So we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to think about medieval times. I know that the pockets have dated back even before that period, but I'm going to look at it from the point of medieval times. So, medieval times, around the 13th century, pockets were made they were made as small fabric or leather pouches, and they were made to be added to the outside of clothing. On the males, they were tied using a griddle, and a griddle was basically a piece of cord that was tied around the waist because at this point we didn't really have belts, and it formed this kind of pocket style bag. I've got a photograph here, just one of many photographs, which is taken from the book 20,000 Years of Fashion. Sorry. That book is newly uploaded onto Moodle along with a couple of other books. So hope that one will be of interest for you as you continue on your learning journey. For women, the pocket bag would have been held by a chanteline. So a chanteline was a small chain style belt, and it would have held, like I said, their beautiful decorative pocket. This decorative pocket would have been decorated with embroidery, beads, or metalwork, showing opulent wealth and craftsmanship. They were practical, but they were mainly a status symbol. Moving slightly further on, by the 16th century, fashions really started to evolve and became much more opulent and grand. They were layered and really detailed, and we sort of see this when we look at images from the Palace of Versailles. Um, we have a photograph here. I spent some time in Paris a few years ago and got to go and have a look around the Palace of Versailles. A beautiful, amazing place, just from when you get to the gates to even be able to walk around the rooms. Some of the rooms are absolutely breathtaking. At this time, pockets really evolved from being tied around the women's waist to being hidden beneath the petticoats, and that was really to excuse me, to protect them from thieves. So these hidden pockets were also beautifully embroidered and surprisingly roomy as well, because they often held their scissors, their handkerchiefs, love letters from their sweethearts, even boiled sweets, and also notebooks, because we know at that period it was the romantic period, and lots of those ladies at that time read romantic novels. The men's history moved slightly faster, with pockets now being integrated. Tailors at that times began sewing them into the coats, into the breeches and the waistcoats, and this was really around the 17th century. And also to note, I have brought in several books, fashion history books from my personal collection that I'm going to share with everybody. So they'll be on site for a number of weeks. Feel free if you want to take photographs or if you want to photocopy some of the pages as you continue along your learning journey. Moving speedily along. The mid 1800s saw a time of social and economic change. Be it good or bad, we know there were lots of things going on around this period. Basically, there was a mass influx of people. You know, we're thinking about the gold rush uh, era. There was a huge population boom. And along with this population boom, we have a couple of people who also emigrated to the Americas, one being Levi Stratus. Levi Stratus was an American, he was a German immigrant, and he moved to the Americas to sell dry goods to the miners. His customer on the right hand side, Jacob Taylor. So Jacob Davis, sorry. Jacob Davis was a tailor, and he made workwear for the men working on the railways. So Jacob realised that when he'd made this workwear, he realised that certain areas on the jeans or on the workwear that he was making, which was originally called overalls. He realised that the workwear wasn't lasting as long as it should be. It had started to rip, and it was down to the stress, that the men were putting it under, especially when they're working underground and things. So what he did was he designed the metal rivets that we see today, and what he did was he put them on areas to reinforce the stress points in areas such as the fly placket, or the corners of pockets. By 1873, Jacob Davis and Levi Stratus, the pair began to work together. And as they worked together, they then patented this riveted workwear. And really, this is when we think about the first pair of jeans really becoming born. And as I've said earlier, jeans themselves were really at that time known as overall. They were kind of made as overalls. They were made from tough cotton twill and from a fabric which we now know is called denim. The name denim originates from the serge de Nimes, which is a cloth from Nimes in France, and the blue dye comes from the indigo plant. So at this point, we're thinking about jeans themselves being practical garments used by labourers, used by the miners, cowboys, and the railroad workers. And as we've said, they wore them for strength and for comfort. So we talked about Jacob Davis being a fine tailor making this workwear. He designed this workwear. He designed 5 pockets originally in the workwear. So 4 of them were functional, and one of them he designed as a watch pocket. So before wristwatches became fashionable, most men wore a fob style watch, which was a small timepiece attached to a chain, and with the idea that it would be tucked safely into this small pocket so that it wouldn't swing about, and it wouldn't get scratched, or they wouldn't lose it whilst they were working. Over the years, this small pocket as we know it has really evolved. We refer to it as a coin pocket. We might use it as a ticket pocket. Also, in most modern times now, we're thinking about with AI and people worrying about. So people are now adding anti-theft devices, so that if you have your credit card in the coin pocket, what they're now doing is they're adding anti-theft, uh, like a plastic resin over the pocket to prevent anyone from being able to clone your credit card. So that was a whistle stop tour on utilitarian pockets, and a little bit of information about denim. Because, like I say, as creative people, if we're going to make things, we need to understand why we're making it. We need to work more purposeful, and it means that we're thinking about. For me, it's much more meaningful when I'm making samples if I know a little bit of the history about why I'm doing that as well. It just means so much more. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I'll see you tomorrow, or if you're not in tomorrow, I'll see you next week. Thank you, and bye for now.